So I was playing Warframe, and I kind of realized something. Loki is hot dog shit. Like, honestly, it's kind of crazy how bad Loki is. And I've also noticed another thing. The devs aren't really doing much about it, to be honest, right? Like, they kind of broke Loki and many other crowd control based frames when they added Overguard. And now it's just kind of like, what the hell is Loki there for, right? Like his passive is literally useless. Nobody uses the passive. The first ability offers very little crowd control without his first augment. His second ability, it's fine. It's invis. It's whatever. The third ability, you can't switch teleport with allies anymore, which is the stupidest thing ever. So you can't troll your allies anymore. And your last ability doesn't affect enemies with Overguard. And enemies can still throw grenades even if they are affected with it. So it's like, you know, what exactly is Loki supposed to be able to do? And here is the Loki rework. Starting off with the passive, we are changing it entirely, making it be to where radiation procs last 5 times as long as normal. Which I know seems like a long time, but trust me, it ties in with his abilities, just trust me, okay? The first ability, the decoy, it's honestly very lackluster, and the main thing that's bad about it is that enemies aren't always going to feel obligated to shoot at the decoy. You could be invis, you could not have a companion with you, and you could have a decoy there, and enemies still wouldn't be shooting at the decoy that much. And if you have the augment for the decoy, then that still wouldn't matter, because enemies would just most likely get procced with radiation, and then those enemies are just going to shoot each other instead of shooting the decoy. So what purpose does it really serve? Well, if you just gave it a little bit of a extra crowd control capability where it pulses out kind of like a energy force that pulls enemies in, right? And it wouldn't stun them, but it would just pull them closer, and it would pulse out every couple seconds, right? It would also attract enemies way easier, right? So enemies would feel way more obligated to fight them. Even if they have radiation procs, they would still feel obligated to fight the decoy. And the augment would not change at all. The second ability would stay the same, because honestly, it's invis. It doesn't really need to change. And if you're concerned about the casting time for the invis, then trust, it's not going to matter with the amount of crowd control Loki's going to have in a second. The third ability,
now the main problem area is up here.
There's a lot wrong with that ability. Honestly, I just got rid of it. It's literally just a worse Ash teleport. Like, what's the point of teleporting? Like if you switch teleport with an enemy, then either you're going to be teleported into a crowd of enemies, or guess what? You'll be the exact same distance away from the enemy that, you know, you were originally standing from, which makes no sense, and it literally should never be used ever, right? So I removed the ability entirely, and I replaced it with Radial Disarm. Radial Disarm is now going to be in the third ability slot, and any enemies that are in the radius of Radial Disarm will get hit with radiation damage. Even enemies that aren't affected by, you know, the main effect of Radial Disarm. And since the augment is also going to be removed from, you know, switch teleport, we're going to change the augment for Radial Disarm. And basically what we're going to make it do is enemies that have their weapons disarmed will also have a portion of their defense stripped. Keep in mind that I'm not saying just armor. That applies to armor, shields, status immunities. Like it will strip a portion of all of their armor. And yes, well, no, not armor, all of their defense. And yes, it does scale with ability strength. Now the last ability is quite interesting, okay? I was playing a couple of frames. I was playing Excal, surprisingly. I don't even like Excal. I was playing Mesa, Baruch, Valkyr, you know, Titania. I think you can see where this is going already. And I noticed something about them. They all have exalted weapons. They're all special in their own right? Mesa has aimbot guns. Baruch and Excal can shoot through, or Baruch and Excal can hit through walls. Valkyr is completely immune to damage. Titania goes into Arcwing mode and she's much faster, very short hitbox. Like, they all have their own special abilities, right? But from my knowledge, none of their abilities are based around heavy attacks. So I'm gonna make Loki be the first frame with an exalted weapon that is dependent around heavy attacks. Now hear me out, okay? He is going to have dual daggers, okay? And these daggers have a guaranteed radiation proc. Now I know that doesn't exactly seem very, interesting, because it's just guaranteed radiation. What exactly is that gonna do? Building up combo count with the blades up to 6 times combo count and up to 11 times combo count. When you do a heavy attack, you will, first off, you'll lose all that combo count, and then you will release a wave of radiation damage that stuns enemies and resets the duration and health of any existing decoys. Yes, I said decoys. I'll get to that in a second. And if you do a heavy attack at 12 times combo count, that is the max combo count, then you will unleash Jormungandr, and his snake will fly and attack enemies, giving a mark to enemies with radiation and applying radiation to enemies without it. Now, it's going to work in a very similar movement pattern to Sevagod's Shadow, except it just kind of goes after whatever enemies are closest to it. Marked enemies that are hit with disarm will have damage dealt to them after 3 seconds, proportionate to a percent of their max health. Not of their current health, but of their max health. Killed enemies will explode, dealing AoE radiation damage. Right? And the augment for the last ability will have the giant fucking snake apply the mark and radiation guaranteed on any enemies, regardless of whether they have overguard, regardless of whether it's an acolyte or anything like that, right? Now, I know that seems kind of broken, and you could just kind of unleash the snake and then,
what do you mean by that?
And do disarm and then kill everything, right? But hey, I mean, that's Warframe. It is what it is. That's all I could really think of in terms of the Loki rework. If you want to hear about more reworks that I have in mind, then please tell me down in the comments and I'll think of something up. And that is the end of the video. Peace. Love y'all.